Time to talk front seven for the Canes here in 2020. We got the Wholesome One on the line. Please join him on his YouTube channel, the Wholesome One Holloway. How you doing today, man?
Great. We're going to talk about something that is important to me, and that is not only the front seven, but the front four. At the University of Miami, when we were at our heyday, this is where we had our best players: offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. And not saying that any of these guys are necessarily them just yet, but if you want to start pulling your program back to top 25, top 20, top 15, where you want to start climbing, those are the places that you want to recruit and develop at, and that's in the fronts.
So we'll start up front where we've had really good play over the past several seasons in leading a defense that's generally been top 10 to 15 in the nation.
Oh, yeah.
And as we project for this year, this could be arguably the best group of pass rushing ends in the country that are going to hit the field.
Absolutely. But in actual, when you think about the history of the University of Miami, Mark, it's more about the interior defensive lineman. You know, even if you go back to 2017 of Kendrick Norton and R.J. McIntosh, or 2019 of Gerald Willis, it was how great the interior defensive lines were that made the exterior defensive linemen just take off. I mean, them being able to stop the run, shoot gaps, and get sacks occasionally from the inside is what made the edge rush go to a whole different level. So, yes, Quincy Roche and Gregory Rousseau might have the greatest combo of sacks going into the 2020s. But more importantly, what are guys like Nasty Nesta Silvera going to do? What are guys like Jordan Miller going to do? Is John Ford at 6'6", 285 ever going to take that elite step? That's the conversation that we're getting into amongst Miami Hurricanes fans.
And I was looking at some numbers on 247 Sports that basically were saying that the defensive tackle position has been strong, but in this past season, they didn't get the quarterback pressure. Obviously, people think of the primary pressure coming from the outside, but that push in the quarterback's face is huge, and it wasn't quite as good as it has been in the past in 2019.
Correct. And that also had a way of, there was rotation and there was depth. You know, if you go back to that 2017 team, well, the two starters, the guys who play now were backups. So if Kendrick Norton did need a breath, he can have John Ford come in and hold the pocket down for a second. If R.J. McIntosh needed a breath or two, we could put Pat Bethel in there. If you go back to 2016, Gerald Willis was a rotational three technique behind R.J. McIntosh, which was crazy to think about now, which is how good he turned out to be later on. But you were able to rotate men. And that's the importance of being able to be, you know, six deep at defensive tackle. You can bring in, and not just the quality, it's just these guys are good to great. I mean, just having a average backup is one thing. But to go from R.J. McIntosh to Gerald Willis to John Ford, that's what you want to be able to do all in one season, especially at home games. And this season in 2019, we were kind of paper thin. Nasty Nesta Silvera had to sit out the first 4 games due to an injury. So that means John Ford snaps the first month of the season. He had to play almost 95% of the snaps because we didn't have anyone else. Number 99, I think I always call him Osi Umenyiora. That is not his name. It's Chikozie Unaruka. He was a rotational guy, but
if he can have that kind of career, then we've got somebody else to talk about.
Exactly. Exactly. We wish that he would have been that type of guy, but Osi was amazing for the Giants, man. But he was a rotational guy for us, Chikozie Unaruka. He wasn't a guy that we can really depend on him actually doing much. So our starters and Pat Bethel, with all due respect to Pat Bethel, forcing him to be the starter is something we shouldn't have to do at Miami. You know, he is a rotational guy that did the best that he could. And when he did get on the field, gave a lot of effort. But at the same time, he shouldn't be an impact player. He shouldn't have to be an impact player for us. And once we finally got Jordan Miller going along, got his conditioning doing well, then we got Nesta Silvera that came in versus UVA and Virginia Tech, and he was able to rotate in there also and take some starting reps later on in the season. Then we were able to rotate and depend on that depth. But that's kind of one of the keys going into 2020 that we're excited about, is the interior depth and the defensive end depth on this defensive line.
So, Wholesome One, you're excited about the depth. You're excited about, obviously, the elite level of players that especially we've got on the outside that we're talking about in Roche and Russo. Are there any concerns here?
Yes. There is expectation and production. Those are two different things. I may think that Nasty Nest is going to turn around. He's my personal favorite player on the team. He was my favorite recruit in the 2018 recruiting class. He's been my favorite player since the day he wore 99 at American Heritage. He's just a good guy, football player. He's a bully. All right. But one of the things I have spoken about when I'm critical of him, he has to do more than just bull rush people. You can't just run down the line of people and expect to have an elite career. We need to develop some pass rush moves on the interior. Now, if you talk about the defensive end room, you got Gregory Rousseau and Roche. Now the question is, Roche's coming from the AAC, and he was defensive player of the year there. Is he going to have the same production here in the ACC? Gregory Rousseau had a good season last year, but if you look at recent history of Miami, we really don't follow up a good season with another good season. Now he's going to be on film. Teams are going to know who Gregory Rousseau is. How are we going to be able to stop him? How are they going to scheme around Gregory Rousseau? Are we going to leave him on the strong side, or are they going to flip him to the weak side? All those type of things gives you a little bit cause to pause and makes you want to think about how our defensive line Coach Stroud, and how Manny Diaz and Blake Baker are going to scheme how to fit all of these great pieces. And even though we lose Gregory Rousseau, you got Jalen Phillips, one of the best defensive ends from UCLA, who I personally think this wouldn't happen, but if it was completely fair, he might actually take Roche's spot. That's how good Jordan Phillips is. He would be a great rotational guy for us that could probably get eight sacks if he was a starter. Javari Harvey is one of my favorite recruits from the 2019 recruiting class that I spoke about. That's crazy. That's almost a year and a half ago at this point. And he flashed a little bit in the La Tech game. He's a pure pass rush player. Then you also bring in Cam Williams, someone that rarely anyone is speaking about. 6'5", who had to take an academic red shirt, and now he's upwards of 265 coming off the edge. And he was a linebacker in high school. So there's a lot of great depth at the defensive end, and some guys aren't proven and some are proven. But then you also got guys like Quentin Williams coming in from the 2020 recruiting class. Strong guy. I think he'll be more of a project player, but when he gets a chance, high level, high effort, plethora of moves. Actually, he's one of those guys that he knows I'm kind of linky, so I can't just bull rush people. So he has a lot of moves that he brings to the table. And Chance Williams, one of the best defensive ends in the country, signed with Miami. So defensive end, thumbs up. Either way you slice it, you're putting a guy that's on the field that is Miami caliber. And whether they deserve a red shirt or two to just a red shirt or maybe a year or two to sit and get some weight on them. Either way, if you have to put them up there, they can give you some contribution and give you some stats. When we start talking about the interior, there's not much production there at all. There's all projection. John Ford, you think 6'6", 295, this guy should be dominating. He doesn't. The one who flashes, and when I did my grading on my channel, who had the highest grade out of all the defensive tackles was Jordan Miller. This guy is 6'4". He was like 340 when he signed with Miami. Now he's down to like 315, 319. And he flashes on film, Mark. Flashes. He has a nice quick step. He plays with good leverage. He's aggressive. He disengages very well. But this previous season, he was to the point where he would get in the backfield, but couldn't bring him down just yet. He's still trying to break down instead of just going after. Just grab him, throw him to the ground. He's thinking a little too much, but he flashes on film. And then you have Nasty Nestor, who has all the hype, but injuries has not equated to him being able to be on the field to produce the stats. And then behind those three guys, a whole bunch of redshirt freshmen and freshmen who flash. Of course, they're freshmen, but they haven't been able to be on the field and produce just yet.
We're getting you set for Miami football this spring with the Wholesome One. Please join him on his YouTube channel, the Wholesome One Holloway. Check him out right there, breaking down tape and talking Miami football on a daily basis. We have addressed the defensive line. Let's look at the linebackers. And, of course, since 2016, Miami fans have been pretty much able to just go with the ink pen. Bam, 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 bam. There's our 3 or 4 linebackers, and forget it. They're good to go. It's been, I don't want to overstate it, as a legendary class, but a very strong core of linebackers that stepped in again as freshmen in 2016 and made their mark on Miami football, led by Shaq Quarterman, who just racked up 107 tackles as a senior with 15 and a half tackles for loss. You've got Michael Pinckney. Zach McLeod was injured this past season, so he couldn't be as productive as he's been in the past. But wow, they came in as a wave and played together, and now they leave as a wave and leave a huge void.
Absolutely. And the big thing about Zach McLeod is that was a big man move. I mean, he wasn't technically injured, Mark. He just decided to take a red shirt because he wants to be able to come back and play next year.
That's right.
But, not being behind, because we now it's a 4-2-5, maybe max 3 or 4 linebackers play. You just rotate once or twice every now and again, every drive, but you had the main 2, 55, 56. Shaq Quarterman, Mike Pinckney. You had those 2 guys, and they were going to be on the field taking 97% of the snaps. Well, now the other half of that is Zach McLeod comes in, and you can pencil him in to take over the inside linebacker, the Mike in the 2 inside linebackers over for Shaq Quarterman. So now we take the instinct of Shaq Quarterman and you replace it with the athleticism and size of Zach McLeod. The other side of that conversation is, what about him knowing that middle linebacker position? Being able to read guards, know that this guy, they're going to run this ball. I'm flying and I'm going to pop this guy in the backfield. Are we going to get that out of Zach McLeod? Because in high school, he was a 3-4 inside linebacker / 3-4 outside linebacker edge rusher. Is he going to have enough training and coaching to be able to play very, very well in this 4-2-5 middle linebacker scheme, which is different? It's kind of new to Miami, and it's new to South Florida in its entirety of how to coach and play that position. But next to him, people are penciling in Sam Brooks. Now, Sam Brooks is a young man that Miami Northwestern edge rusher, came to Miami and played in the Bethune-Cookman game, led the team in tackles, and only played 8 minutes. Then he starts the entire La Tech game and gets 11 tackles in that game, 8 of those being solo. Looked like the better linebacker against La Tech, playing next to a 52-game starter, 729 snap, Shaq Quarterman. So the hype around Sam Brooks is big. Let's take a deep breath. Let's breathe it in. Let's give the young man an opportunity to work hard, and go out there and do it. Let's not project what we think he should be onto him. We know he's going to be a hardworking young man, South Florida guy. We know he's going to be in the weight room with Coach David Feely, hardworking strength and conditioning coach. Let's let him be the best Sam Brooks that he can be. His stats did pop. He flashed on film. The 2 games he played, he led us in tackles. That's great. He's really fast. He's quick. He's athletic, and he wants to be a Miami Hurricane. He wants to be great at the sport and at the position of linebacker. He wears the 6. Okay, when you wear 6 at Miami, that means you got to be pretty good. Shout out to the cousin Santana Moss. But I'm excited about those 2. Behind them, it's a lot of guys that are either injury prone or have little to no experience whatsoever. 4 of the 8 linebackers that are on our roster right now are out for spring ball. Completely out. And they're not like little flick injuries. No. You got hip injuries. You got shoulder injuries. Sam Brooks, out with a shoulder. BJ Jennings, out with a hip. Pat Joyner, out with a foot injury. Corey Flagg, out with a shoulder injury. Tyreek Austin, out with a shoulder injury. So it's paper thin going into spring also. So the thing that we're all considering is, if Zach McLeod, knock on wood, Zach McLeod goes down with an injury, what do we do? What do we do? But one person I want you all to keep an eye out for me, who I project to start next to Zach McCloud, is Wayman Steed. He's tore ACLs before, but he's one of the only healthy linebackers going in the spring who was actually in big competition with Michael Pinkney for the starting job. And rumors has it that he actually was beating out Michael Pinkney, but then he ended up getting hurt, and that kind of had to trash the 2019 season for him. But he's from Miami Central, Miami guy, signed with us, been on for a while at Miami. Him and Bradley Jennings were the two guys that we signed in the 2017 class to be the ones that back up Shaq and Pinkney. So maybe we can get them to come out and play, but the biggest thing is health. Are our guys going to be healthy moving forward into the 2020 season?
If worse comes to worse, you send those safeties back for double reps in the weight room, and you run a 4.7. 4.7. You just skip the linebacker position.
Yeah, and we've also talked about, as a fan base, I don't know if the coaches have thought about this, but I think Amari Carter, with his size and strength, can come down. He's already pushing 208, 210. Come down and play the weak side linebacker or the middle linebacker. I mean, the days of having 255-pound middle linebackers that just blowing the fullbacks are gone. And you look at your national championship teams, nobody's bigger than like 235. That is highest. So you can be 220, 227 and play pretty well at linebacker in this spread concept of 2020 college football. So I think Amari Carter could come down and be a very, very good linebacker. So, hey, if he's back there at safety doing his thing, he can be very good. But coming down to linebacker, I think he could be a second-team All-ACC linebacker if he came down and played it.
People, we know that you shop Amazon, so please do so using the link in the description section below. Please check out the Wholesome Ones channel, the Wholesome One Holloway, right here on YouTube for your Miami content, and lock it in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and follow us on Twitter as well at Mark Rogers TV. There's your breakdown on the D-line and the linebackers from the Wholesome One. Man, we appreciate you stopping by and laying down the knowledge.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.